Is app development hard? I'm going to give you 5 reasons why it is and 5 reasons why it isn't, and you can decide yourself if you think it's something worth looking into. If you're new here, be sure to take a second below and subscribe to not miss out on future videos all about app development. Now let's get started with the reasons why app development is hard first. So 5 reasons. Well, first reason is because you're probably going to have to learn how to code. There are solutions out there which are app builders. It's kind of like the Wix or WordPress of app development, but I recommend not using those because if there's something that they don't support and you want to expand your app to include some custom new feature, you're kind of stuck because your entire app is built in this thing that has a very limited scope. I call these kind of apps cookie cutter apps. Same with the websites. I'm not really a huge fan of Wix or WordPress, of course, because I'm a software engineer, and so I don't really use those. Don't get me wrong, they are great in case you do exactly want that cookie cutter app, but it's my opinion that the most custom apps provide the most value because you can tailor that app to users' specific needs. Anyways, so that's reason number 1 is you're probably going to have to learn how to code, and so learning how to code isn't super easy. It's not super difficult with all the resources out there available today as well. It'll require some critical thinking. Okay, now reason number 2 why building an app can be hard is because you have to make a choice of what you want to build your app in. So first of all, do you want to use an app builder or do you want to code it yourself? And then from there, which one do you want to use? If you're coding it yourself, do you want to use native Swift? Do you want to use Android Studio, Xcode? You could use Flutter, NativeScript, Ionic. So you have to make a choice here, and it can make it a little bit daunting to get started. But the one that I choose typically is Ionic for the front end and then Firebase for the back end. So the front end is what the user will be interacting with, and then the back end is where the data is saved for your app, like user data, login information, things like that. So making that choice can be hard, and it definitely depends on the particulars of your app, but as a general rule of thumb, the one that I use to build all my apps is Ionic for the front end and Firebase for the back end. Now, reason number 3 why building apps can be hard is because you're going to need problem-solving skills. So this is kind of in the coding bucket, but not really, because there are a lot of problems outside of coding that you're going to need to solve, like problems with user complaints about your app. How do you fix that? Or how do you choose how much to charge for your app? And how do you get users for your app? There are a lot of problems with app development outside of just the coding, so be prepared to put on your thinking hat and figure this stuff out. Alright, reason number 4 why building apps can be hard is because if you try to outsource this and skip reason number 1, which is coding can be hard, if you try to outsource app development, it's expensive. So because app development is hard and not that many people have that skill, the app developers that are good at it know that and they charge accordingly. So they're in high demand and they'll charge you for it. Now, to try to overcome this, you can go overseas to a third world country. If you're living in the US, you could go to India or Brazil or something. But of course, there will be a communication barrier with this. Oftentimes, it's not their native language, as well as the time difference. So you pay less, but you get less convenience as well. So you just have to decide if that's worth it or not. Now, reason number 5 why building apps can be difficult is because updates and releasing new versions to the App Store is kind of a process, especially for the iOS App Store, Apple's thing. A lot of people have difficulty getting their apps approved in the first place. So you just have to make sure you're familiar with Apple's developer guidelines, as well as Google's, conforming with all their rules and building apps that are, safe and adhere to their monetization policy and so forth. There's a bunch of rules. It's not too long, but you definitely want to be familiar with them. So I'll leave those linked below in case you want to check those out. Okay, now let's flip things around and look at why app development can be not hard. It can be rather easy. Reason number 1 is when you are learning coding, I recommend learning a framework that focuses on the WYSIWYG principle, and that stands for what you see is what you get. So HTML is a perfect example of this. So if you've ever seen any HTML code, always what you see in the code is exactly what you see on the page. And so if you're using a framework that uses WYSIWYG, then it's really easy. What you see in your code will be exactly what you see in your app. And that makes it very easy to wrap your head around. It makes it a lot easier to learn than something like, building databases, querying SQL database, or, logging into remote servers and managing things like that. And so compared to those other types of programming, app development can be what you see is what you get, and it becomes a lot easier. Alright, reason number 2 why building apps isn't so bad is because once you get over the first little learning curve, it becomes a lot easier. You just get used to it. So I would say like 90% of the coding that I do is incredibly easy. I'm not even thinking really, I'm just translating essentially. I'm like, okay, the client wants this in their app, or I want to build this feature in my app. Well, I'm just gonna write that up. I don't even have to think about it. It's just automatic. And that comes with time and comes with experience with coding. Reason number 3 why building apps isn't so bad is sometimes if you already have a website, you can get away with creating just a wrapper around that website. So the app is a wrapper and it just displays your website as is seen in the mobile web view. And setting this up is surprisingly easy, especially compared to building the app from scratch if you already have an existing website. So if you happen to fall into this category, you can kind of cheat your way out of the hard work of building an app. Reason number 4 why building apps isn't so bad is because the developer fees are pretty low. Like, you can build apps yourself for free, and then to publish those apps, Google requires a $25 one-time fee, not that bad, and Apple is a $100 yearly fee. Also not that bad, especially if you're planning to make any sort of money with the app that you're publishing. Now, one caveat to this is that for in-app purchases, Apple and Google each take 30%, so that's a rather large cut, but that's the price of distribution on such a massive scale. And finally, reason number 5 why building apps isn't so hard is because there's a lot of information out there on how to do it, and in particular, I've recently created an end-to-end course which shows a complete beginner who's never coded in their life how to go build apps and then publish them on the iOS and Android stores. And I haven't seen anything like that out on the marketplace. So this new resource that's available is going to make it a lot easier for anyone who wants to delve into app development. I'll leave a link in the description below to a webinar where I describe the 8 steps to coding an app, and at the end, I have an offer for my course, Mobile App Development. So if you're interested, check that out. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I hope you learned a little bit more about app development today. Remember to subscribe below for more videos from me, Jamison Saunders. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.